Good morning and welcome to Frontiers of Knowledge segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. As I always say, knowledge, information has no limit. It's just like the horizon. The more you go near it, the farther it recedes. But there's one benefit that every additional item of knowledge expands your vision, makes you more innovative and more creative. And not only that, it makes you sensitive to the achievements that characterize our species, the Homo sapiens. Now imagine the biggest problem today that we face is cancer, the lung cancer, especially for the smokers and those exposed to the pollution. And it metasizes, it expands. Can you ever have thought till today that using a virus can protect and save your lungs from metastatic cancer? Well, it can. The University of California in San Diego has developed a new treatment that could keep metastatic cancer at bay from the lungs. And how does this virus come around? It is developed from the black-eyed pea plants. Black eye, in Hindi they call it lobia. The black-eyed pea plant has a certain characteristic which treated with nano-engineering process generates this virus. And this virus not only slows down the tumor growth in the lungs with either metastatic breast cancer and melanoma, it also minimizes the spread of these cancers to the lungs. So breast cancer, melanoma, which is a skin cancer, and the lung cancer, 3 cancers can be treated by that. So what they do is they target the nanoparticles to the lung. Therefore, they have created these plant virus particles to home in on the lungs, making use of S100A9 as the target protein. Because these nanoparticles tend to localize in the lungs, they change the tumor microenvironment and become more adept not only at fighting the established tumor but the future tumors as well. So this is something that not only the present disease is eradicated, but the possibility of any future tumor developing is also eliminated. So what did they do? To make these nanoparticles, they grew black-eyed pea plant in the lab, infected that plant with cow pea mosaic virus, then harvested the virus in the form of a ball-shaped nanoparticle, and that is injected. It's both preventive as well as treatment. Now this achievement, because there are more than 5 million people in US alone who are suffering from these 3 cancers. And if you look at the world, it is staggering. So, injecting of this plant virus nanoparticles in the bloodstream of healthy people and then injected with negative breast cancer shows that the cancer cells are removed and there is no danger at all. So what they can do is, as a preventive step, like vaccine, they can be injected in the people and they will be immune to the attacks. But is that enough? No. This is the latest discovery. And this discovery is that there is an animal, a marine animal, which is able to regenerate itself. Now we have seen animals which regenerate part of themselves. We know it that many animals are there in the nature, some reptiles even. In animal kingdom there are many animals, gecko. You cut off one part and the other part grows in its own place without help of a surgeon or a plastic. But then the researchers in Tel Aviv University have discovered a new species, Acidian. It's a marine animal and is commonly found in the Gulf Islet. And it is capable of regenerating all its organs even if it's dissected into 3 fragments. Now, if it can regenerate all its organs, then what can the scientist learn from that and then apply it? Now, as the science and the knowledge goes, the ability to regenerate organs is common in the animal kingdom. Gecko is able to, for example, grow a new tail. But this is the first time that we have seen an animal regenerating the whole body system. Anyone who has ever opened his or her eyes to the underwater kingdom has seen Acidians without knowing it. What they do is they camouflage themselves as lumps on rocks. So they are part of a rock, and it's very difficult to see them, recognize them, identify them. But this is a very simple organism, this animal, this Acidian. It has 2 openings in its body, an entry and an exit. And these 2 openings are a sort of a strainer or a filter that filter the food particles that remain in the body. And clean water exits out. So they take in the marine water, they keep the food particles, and then the clean water goes out. Among the invertebrates, they are considered the closest to the human beings. So now the scientists are saying, since they are the closest to human beings, is it possible to generate some way to have the same capability that human beings who lose a limb can regenerate the limb? If virus chickpea can generate antibodies that kill tumors, why not derive something from this animal, inject the human beings so that they regenerate that part? My imagination is staggered, and I'm hopeful that the scientists will be able to do something. But then that's opening the new possibilities. Now just imagine they have developed a new nanosensor that could turn your smartphone into super smart gas sensor. What happens? An air pollutant emitted by fossil fuel powered cars, gas burning stoves, is bad for the climate, bad for the health. And the bad element is nitrogen dioxide. Now, long-term exposure to nitrogen dioxide is linked to increased heart disease, respiratory diseases like asthma and infection. But unfortunately, it's colorless, it's odorless, so you need a special sensor that can detect this hazardous concentration. And here comes Berkeley University. They have developed an ultra-thin sensor which can identify it. And this ultra-thin sensor is a nanosensor again, smaller than the width of a hair, human hair. So this can be added to your telephone, and it can always monitor NO2, nitrogen dioxide. University of California, Berkeley has developed it. And they say this can work at room temperature, and automatically the information is conveyed to you, get away from here, this is a dangerous zone. But if this sensor can tell you about the presence of nitrogen dioxide, there's another handheld device, And what happens in this age of pandemics and the fear of the terror attacks, fear of the failure, fear of the heights? And we always have panic attacks. Every human being has at one time or the other. Some have more, some have less. So they have developed a handheld device. And what it does? It calms the panic attacks and it calms them in the twinkling of an eye. The device looks like an asthma inhaler. It engages the three senses: sense of vision, sense of touch, sense of smell. And combining these three, it reduces your stress. The name of the device is Kamigo. Interesting. Now, how does it do? How does it work? Kamigo is the first and foremost helps regulate breathing, although not in a way that requires any conscious cognitive effort on your part. Popular breathing techniques require concentration. The problem is that counting activates the sympathetic nervous system at a time when you want to quit it. So if you start counting, as all the coaches say, count up to 10 if you are getting angry. That's okay. But if you are getting panic attack, then counting 10 is not going to help you. The sympathetic nervous system stimulates the body's reaction of flight or fight. So in contrast, what this device does is it activates parasympathetic nervous system in the brain, which is responsible for relaxation response in the body. And then there are three blinding lights on the Kamigo device. They guide your breathing. So when the third light comes in, you breathe in. You don't have to think or count, just breathe. And it has a learning mechanism. It tracks your breathing patterns, adjusts itself to gradually slow your exhalation, your breathing out, and the 3-minute recommended period of use. 3 minutes, 3 times a day works faster. It has an optional function that vibrates the device when you have finished breathing. Then it addresses another sense, touch. As the flashing lights engage your vision, this sense of touch vibrates, and that vibration keeps you more cool. The third is smell. Every Kamigo is shipped with lavender, peppermint, scent panels, which snap onto the face of the device, and aromatherapy comes out. So light is there to guide your breathing, vibrations to activate your touch, and then smell as aromatherapy to make you feel cool, calm, and everything. Wow. Telling lies is a major problem. Lie detection tests are there, but these lie detectors are of no avail when the person who is lying is an expert. There are people who have found ways how to evade the lie detectors. Polygraph tests, the lie detecting tests, as they present on the talk shows, are not foolproof. As a matter of fact, they are unreliable, as has been proved by science and even in the law. So now the Israelis have come up with a super effective lie detecting method, and it utilizes the concealed information test. The test is an absolute capable, worthy alternative to the polygraph lie test. Now, during this test, the suspect is presented with information about a crime that only he could have known. So then they use real-time artificial intelligence-driven algorithm, and they recognize the examinee's initial response is to hide their familiarity, or they are open. So Instead of focusing on trying to determine whether or not the person is lying, the system works by recording the brain reaction of the person upon hearing information. If the first response is an attempt to comprehend, then the person is innocent, because only that person will try to comprehend the information which he is not aware of. But if he is aware of, he will not try to comprehend, he will simply respond. This is something which will be extremely useful, especially in these days of the fear of terrorists creeping in. As a matter of fact, this can be used for immigration purposes to weed out the Trojan horses and the refugees. And then, first synthetic cornea has been developed. And it's a boon to the people who suffer from glaucoma, who are losing sight. This artificial cornea has been implanted for the first time last week, and is quite literally something new. For the first time in the history of mankind, a cornea has been developed and utilized. And before I end, very interesting information has come up. Antibiotics, we use them whenever we have a disease. And the side effects of these antibiotics are really horrible. So now the scientists in Tel Aviv University have developed a biological antibiotic. This biological antibiotic is an effective, more efficient substitute for traditional chemical antibiotics. What they do is, the antibodies are isolated from a patient who was a patient but has since recovered. And these antibodies are used to develop a biological antibody and demonstrate that a human antibodies can act as a substitute for the chemical antibodies. Now, antibiotics as they are used today are chemical agents. They block and destroy specific cells. But the biological mechanisms are common to both human and microbial cells, so they have no side effects at all. This is definitely going to be a great help to the patients who are afraid of the side effects of antibiotics and try to avoid them, which should be done. I myself try to avoid antibiotics. And this human antibiotic, biologically made antibiotic, is going to be a boon to treat infections, septics, sepsises, and so on. So the horizons of knowledge keep on widening, getting more and more interesting and informative. So we come with some new nuggets of knowledge next week. Thank you.